The next 2 days is going to be a wide range of communication related areas, starting from what communication is, the basic principles of communication, how communication can be improved, verbal communication, non-verbal communication, body language, email writing, written communication, and spoken communication. First thing that comes to our mind when we say communication is somebody speaking. Is that what you normally mean by communication skills? I don't think so. Because listening is an equally important part of communication. Normally people mistake communication only for speaking. However, for becoming a better speaker, you need to be a good listener as well. Active listening skills enhance better speaking skills as well. So, what do you mean by communication? I would say communication is a process. When we say it's a process, it means two things. It involves two and more aspects, and secondly, it is a continuous process. It does not have a logical or a conclusive end. When we say this, normally people speak about gaps in communication, barriers in communication, etc. We'll come to that a little later. Communication is a process which is twofold. On one hand, you have sender and you have receiver. And then in between, you have a media or a channel of communication. What it signifies? It says there is somebody who is sending out the communication. Long back when the mankind was staying in caves, the civilization was at an evolutionary stage, the caveman used to draw pictures. That very fact shows the desire to communicate even in the primitive days. Today, we have plenty of channels of communication. There are electronic communication, there are mass communication models, there are written, verbal, language-based communication, so on and so forth. But the process hasn't changed. Here you have a sender who first thinks about the message. Then he codes that message into an appropriate language that the receiver would understand. And then sends it via media, which is very well understood by receiver. Then the receiver gives a feedback to the sender and he becomes the sender here. So this is a continuous process between sender and receiver. However, there are very, very important principles of communication, what we call as 7 C's of communication. Now, what all 7 C's include? The first and foremost, it has to be courteous. Whenever you're communicating something, it needs to buy you goodwill. It has more of the gesture of pleasant toned words and also some pleasantries which would be exchanged over a period of time. The second C, which is really important, is it needs to be complete. You cannot leave the sentences halfway. They need to be completed. So all your communication needs to be complete in its total structure. Third C is it needs to be concrete. They need to have the required details absolutely to the minutest possible point that it could cover, so that it makes more sense and a receiver is in a position to derive the right meaning out of it. It needs to be crisp. It need not be full of words and full of images and full of metaphors and high-sounding phrases, etc. It should be simple, clear, concise, concrete, crisp, and the most important, it should be courteous. So now we've seen the 7 C's. Now we will move to the types of communication, and I am going to tell you something very important factor. Normally, what's the first impression that you people would make? It's the visual image that comes first, and then it is followed by all the words that's being spoken. As famous social linguist Albert Mehrabian says, 55% of the total communication happens on body language. 38% of it happens through voice, tone, inflection, and only 7% of it happens through the actual words that you have spoken. Isn't it a little surprising? Yes, it is. Because your body language, your attire, and your visual image, they communicate a plethora of areas about yourself, like your educational background, your characteristics, your composedness, your cool, calm effect, or what kind of a person you are. It reflects your confidence. It reflects the kind of socio-economic background that you come from. Really hard to believe, isn't it? But yes. For example, I stand and I say good morning and welcome. How does this look like? Any of you? It looks like I'm doing it only as a matter of formality. But if I speak something like good morning and very warm welcome to all of you, it looks more genuine. It's the smile that has made all the difference. If I would fake a smile like an air hostess, and with due respect to the air hostesses, if I do something like good morning and welcome, how does this look? And if I later on do something like good morning and welcome, how does that look? Very indifferent. So a lot of it depends on the kind of body language and voice tone fluctuation and inflection that we want to use. In a nutshell, when body language does not go well with the words, people tend to believe your body language. The rest part we will just have after a short.